We're talking about loneliness during the holidays. When I was a kid, I have a distinct memory of my parents telling me that we're going to put these cookies out. And the purpose, apparently, of these cookies was that there was a guy coming, and his name was Saint Nick. And he's going to come through the chimney, and he's going to need some cookies and some milk. And I guess the reason why we were appeasing him is because he was going to be bringing us gifts, and he was going to be leaving me toys and stuffing these ridiculous socks that we had hung up on this mantle. But the problem is we didn't have a fireplace or a chimney, so I didn't totally understand how exactly the logistics of this were going to work. So I had a lot of questions about how Saint Nick, who apparently was a big fella, was going to be getting in our house. And when he got there, I understood he was going to eat our cookies, but I didn't understand how he was getting out. And so they said that he would just come through the vents, since we lived in kind of like this apartment townhome, and and that seemed to be enough for me. Obviously, there's elements of magic involved, and so my parents put on this elaborate display. They even pulled one of those. Oh, Roman, did you see him? You just missed him. He just came, And they did one of those things, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm looking out the window, looking down the street, trying to see this guy running away, this reverse thief with a sack of things he's giving people instead of taking. And I never saw him with my own eyes. Of course, as I got a little bit older, got a little bit wiser, and realized that this was mainly folklore. They weren't actually telling me something that was real. This wasn't based on anything that was true. And so I remember, as a teenager, talking to my parents about it, and we were just reminiscing very innocently. And I said, "Yeah, I remember when you guys were, telling me about this Saint Nick and that he was coming." My parents said, "No, we never told you that." I'm like, "No, I remember the stories. Like, remember we put the milk out and we did all this stuff." Like, "Oh no, we were always right up front with you. We never told you any of those stories about Santa Claus or anything like that." And I'm just sitting there like, wow. It's the ultimate gaslight. It's like a years long childhood gaslight. So that they not only told the stories, but then they told me that they never told me the stories. But when you think about these things, because some of you may have small children as well, or maybe you raise your children with similar stories, but have you ever taken the time to ask yourself, why? Why are we raising our children with these stories? Why do we want to give the credit of maybe our hard work or our generosity to a fictional character? Is there any benefit in telling these mainly false stories? Is there any point to it? We find that mostly the reason we tend to do these things is because of tradition. Perhaps they were done for us, or we notice that in the general community around us, it's being done for other children. So we think, oh, well, let me do this for my children. I don't want them to miss out on this tradition. But is tradition enough? Is tradition the reason that we should guide our steps? The trouble with culture and tradition is it can cause us to live in the subconscious mind. That's where we're skating through life on like an autopilot. It's that program you have that drives you home automatically, and you end up in your driveway, but you don't remember how you even got there. That's our subconscious autopilot. We can live our entire lives in the subconscious autopilot, and that's a real problem. That's a real problem, because if we're living our lives in the subconscious autopilot, it allows us to very easily be controlled by the writers of these traditions and the gatekeepers of our culture. It can allow us to easily be controlled by what once was, to continue to live in the past instead of moving forward and living in the future, and controlling, being the agents of control over our present and our future. If we're in subconscious mind thinking, then if we have any unhealed thoughts, any unhealed ways of thinking or unhealed beliefs, then we're still bound by those. So that can be so dangerous for us. So we need to be asking the question, why? So we don't end up like a barrel full of monkeys. Scientists have done experiments where they'll put bananas on the top of a ladder and then a bunch of monkeys in this room or this barrel below. And as the monkeys below try to climb up to the bananas, the scientists would give a shock to all of the monkeys. And so the monkeys would learn that it was bad for anyone to climb up that ladder to get the bananas. And so they would start to stop each other from climbing up the ladder. Well, what the scientists would then do is replace one of the monkeys with a new monkey. As a new monkey enters this group, the new monkey doesn't know the rules. The new monkey starts to go up the ladder, but without the scientists punishing anyone, the other monkeys grab the new monkey, bring him down, and give him a good beating to let him know, we don't climb up the ladder here. We don't try to go for the bananas. And so as it would go, they would replace another monkey and another monkey until the entire bunch was all new monkeys. But guess what? They kept the tradition of beating any monkey, any new monkey that came in and tried to go for the bananas, although there was no longer any actual punishment for going after the bananas, although no one there actually knew why they were beating each other up. They just all kept the tradition when there was none of the original monkeys left and were holding each other down. That can be one of the faults of culture and tradition. They can actually hold us back. So we need to ask ourselves why. There's nothing wrong with doing something that's traditional, but we need to ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Why is this so important? And this is essential when we get to the place of feeling lonely around the holidays, because it's around this time of year that many people start to feel like, I am so alone. I feel so sad with my life and my family situation. And there's various reasons, right? Some people say, I used to be married and now I'm divorced. And so now as a divorced person, how can I be happy? We used to have big family get-togethers around the holidays, and now it's just me. Does that sound like you? There are others who say, I always wanted a big family, or lately I'm starting to feel like I want a big family. But now I'm looking and I notice that we don't have many children, or we don't have any children. And it makes me feel sad. It makes me feel lonely around the holidays, like I'm missing out. Or some have said, well, we made the choice, my wife and I, or my husband and I made the choice not to have children. But now I'm starting to regret that decision and think maybe we should have had children. I feel lonely now around the holidays. And some said, well, I've always wanted kids, but I couldn't have kids, or we didn't get a chance to have the kids. And so I feel lonely now around the holidays. Or some have children, but they say, well, it's just me and my kids. I don't have the spouse to help me to take care of these children. So I feel lonely around the holidays. This is not uncommon. 51% of mothers with young children feel lonely. 61% of young people say that they feel lonely. Or maybe you're someone who said, I just want more friends. One young lady said, I would like more girlfriends specifically. She wanted more platonic girlfriends. Some have said, I have no one anymore. since I had to stand up to the abusive people in my family. Now it's just me, and I'm alone, and I have no one. So if any of these feel like if you can relate to any of these ways of thinking, we have to ask ourselves why we're placing so much importance on this particular time of year. Why now is the time that we feel like we need to just totally regret our lives? Why now is the time to feel lonely? And what we might recognize is that we're actually creating our own perception that's driving the loneliness. You see, because the reality is that we're being bound by a tradition that we were brainwashed into believing by the media that we were taking in from childhood, or by the traditions that our parents put us into. But is there an actual significance to one specific day on the calendar that now that day represents a time that you're supposed to feel unhappy if you're not surrounded by a certain number of people? Loneliness is a perception of the mind. It's a perception. It's a way of viewing your situation. So when we view things from the standpoint of loneliness, when we feel the feeling of loneliness, what we're doing is we're looking at our situation in life and we're saying, this is unacceptable. This is inadequate, or I am inadequate because of this situation. Or this is wrong for me to be by myself or alone. Or this is not enough. When you think about it, that's the actual perception that creates the loneliness. The loneliness is not an actual, unavoidable feeling. Loneliness is based on your perception, because all of our feelings are based on our perceptions of a situation. There are some times in your life where you've actually wanted to be away from people, isn't there? And then so when you were successful in getting away from people, let's say the people were annoying, or you just needed some privacy to take care of some personal business, or you wanted to sleep or use the bathroom or take a shower. So you got yourself isolated. When you finally got away from people and all the pressure, did you feel lonely? No, in these situations where we're getting away from people, we actually feel relieved to be alone. So it's not being alone that makes us lonely. In fact, many people still report feeling lonely when they are surrounded by friends or family members. So they may say, well, I feel lonely because I don't relate to any of these people here. Or I feel lonely because these people don't respect me. Or I feel lonely because I'm not connecting with anyone here. There's no one here that I vibe with. And so it's not the people that cure the loneliness. I repeat, it's not the people that cure the loneliness. If we are experiencing loneliness, it is because we are perceiving our situation as being wrong, not enough, inadequate. We are perceiving that we are unable to feel the love and the connection and the peace that we want to experience. People don't solve it. So when you tell yourself the story that, well, if I just had a husband, or if I just had a wife, or if I just wasn't divorced, or if I was just with more children, or if I had grandchildren, my children would have children, you are making up the story. You are deciding that's when I'll be happy. And maybe that's true. Maybe you will, but you're the one who's deciding it. You're deciding I can't be happy right now. That's a rule that you just made up for yourself. I can't be happy right now, but if my son has a son, then I will be happy when I'm a grandmother. You're making up rules. None of this is real. This is a perception. Again, the angle you're looking at your situation is this is not enough. And we see that in all these cases. I used to be married, so being divorced, this is not enough. I wanted a big family. In other words, the family I have, this is not enough. Some people have 2, 3 kids and they feel like they don't have a big family. For them, it's not enough. You're choosing to view your situation as not enough. Well, I want a kid, so what I have is not enough. It's just me, so this isn't enough. I only have one spouse. That's not enough. Right? In some cultures, men are upset if they only have one wife. They feel like they failed. But is having multiple wives the key to happiness? Well, of course not. Maybe even quite the contrary. We are making the rules. You're making the rules. You're telling yourself a story. When you tell yourself a story, it's you're playing yourself a movie. And just like when you read stories and watch movies, you feel feelings. That is how you are creating the feeling of loneliness. Your feelings come from your perceptions. You're telling yourself a story, you're making a movie in your mind, because you could play yourself a new perception, you could write a new story, right? If you play a new movie, such as, whew, I'm finally alone. I've been hoping to get away from everybody so I could finally enjoy myself. What happens to the feeling of loneliness? Whoosh, disappears. You don't feel lonely. Tell yourself that right now. You can try it. The loneliness disappears the moment you switch your perception to, oh, yes, I'm finally by myself. As soon as you get into I'm finally by myself mode, the loneliness goes away. How is it that simple? I thought loneliness was a real thing. I thought it was crippling. I thought it happened to everyone who doesn't have enough love and enough people in their life. No, people don't solve loneliness. Well, I heard that connection solves loneliness. What you need is connection. No, connection is a perception. It's a projection, actually. If I'm next to a woman right here and she's next to me and I say, oh, me and my wife here, we are so connected. My wife can literally be thinking in her head, I hate this guy, right? In my mind, we're connected. So I can feel happy. I can feel, oh, I'm so happy in this marriage. I'm so happy with this person. This can happen, right? You may have been one of the people in a scenario like this where one of the persons was feeling connected and the other didn't. And you might have been that person who really didn't feel connected. In fact, that's very common for trauma survivors, empaths, because they were people pleasers. So they've been on the side of a situation where they made another person feel connected. You have gaslit other people to think that they were in a really good, loving relationship and you didn't love them. And then you get up one day and abandon them and shatter whatever mental health they might have had. And that's what unhealed empaths do. So the connection isn't a real thing. Connection is a perception of the mind. If you want to feel connected, just go ahead. Just go ahead. Develop the skills of assertiveness and boundaries. And when you are confident in those skills, then you don't fear having relationships with other people. And then you can therefore feel that you have the ability to connect, which leads to the feelings of connection. Because once you're not afraid to connect, then you already feel like you're connected because you know you can connect with people at any time. So you don't feel lonely. You don't feel like you're in a situation where you have no choice. You don't feel out of control. So if you want to feel connected, just go ahead and feel connected. Just imagine yourself and imagine mankind and think about all of these wonderful, beautiful people and think about yourself and think about all of you being one in a spiritual energy sense and the love that you have in your heart welling up and just overcoming and overtaking everyone and their love overtaking you, and just feel the love for everyone. And you can feel connected. And you can walk through the grocery store with a big smile on your face. You can smile at all the kids and you can talk to all the old ladies, right? And you will feel connected. Why? Because you change your perception to, I have the ability to connect to people anytime I want. I am connected. I am one with the human race. Because you changed your thought to that, then you felt connected. The reason you don't feel connected, the reason you feel lonely is because your thoughts are, this is all I have. I am all alone. I have no one. You're writing that story. These are the words that you're writing. I used to be married, but now I don't have anyone. I dumped my boyfriend and now it's just me. I feel rejected. Nobody wants to be with me. I feel like a loser. I've lost in society if I'm still single. These are the types of stories you're writing for yourself. And you go, wow, why do I feel so awful? Why do I emotionally, metaphysically feel terrible? Because you're writing terrible stories. So change your writing. Does it really matter what words we use? Yes. The subconscious mind is programmed, is designed to listen to the words, but it is an AI, right? It's an artificial intelligence because it's not you, so it can't really reason everything out. So you have to give it the very specific wording so that it understands what chemical cocktail to give you. So if you give it the wording, I have no one, it will panic if that violates your particular values, and it will give you a painful chemical cocktail. It's doing it to help you. It's for your survival. So it's like, oh no, we have no one. That's terrible. Pour down the cortisol, and it's going to shoot it into your veins. So you're going to have it in your bloodstream, which goes through your entire body. And so your entire body is going to feel racked with pain and agony. And you're going to say, why do I feel so awful? Oh my God. You feel awful because you just told your subconscious brain that you had no one. You just created a dire survivalist situation. Change the wording. Write a happy story and you will feel better. This doesn't mean we need to be in la la land. Let's just get closer to the truth, because in reality, this idea where you used to be married and now you divorce a person, half the time we're forgetting that we're the person who left them. And somehow we've turned it around to word the situation like we're the rejected party and like nobody wants us. Oh, nobody wants to be with me. Yes, they do. You divorced them. Well, probably had a good reason, because they were neglectful or they were narcissistic or they were abusive, right? So you had your reason, but the point is people do want to be with you. So don't tell your subconscious brain the false story that people don't want to be with you. Tell it the truth. The truth is, there's a lot of people who want to hang with me these holidays, but I don't want to hang with them. That's the truth. Write that down. There's a lot of people that want to hang with me these holidays, but I don't want to hang with them. In fact, I'm very glad that I have divorced that abusive, cheating, lying, manipulative man or woman that I was with. I'm so happy I don't have to spend this holiday with them. In fact, now that I think about it, because they were a narcissist, they always turned special occasions around so that there would be awful occasions. They could never allow me to enjoy a special occasion. So they would always start a fight right before we went on the vacation or we went over to our family's house. So that I would be in a terrible mood. Now that you think about it, it's actually better to be alone than to wish you were. On the other hand, there's the endless void of what we do not understand. I'm sorry, the endless void of what we do not have. The endless void of what we do not have. The endless void of what we do not have, for any who are new in the room, is the infinite amount of things that every human being is lacking. Because no matter who you are and no matter how much you have, you also don't have everything else that exists. And that is for everyone. So does it actually make sense, since all of us don't have everything that we don't have, which is a lot of stuff, does it make sense for us to focus our mind on all the stuff we don't have, which is endless and infinite? If you thought about one thing you didn't have for 1 minute each, to get through all the things, it would take your entire lifetime plus, because there is an infinite void of what we do not have. So when you're saying, well, I want a big family, but I don't have a big family. Yeah, you're just peering into the infinite void of what you don't have. What sense does that make? Or when you say, Well, we chose not to have kids, but now I regret it. Well, you're just looking over the edge into the void of what you don't have. What sense does that make? And you say, well, I did want kids, but I couldn't have them. How's it looking in that void of things that you do not have? Everybody doesn't have everything they don't have. We all don't have an infinite amount of things. It is cognitive distortion to focus our mind on what we do not have. That makes no sense. You have a son, but you wish you had a daughter. What? If you do that, then you're going to mistreat your son. You're not going to be able to give him the full love because you're too worried about how you didn't have a daughter. That doesn't make sense. You have to focus on what you do have, show appreciation for what you do have, live in the abundance mindset. The abundance mindset is a whole focus on what's there and what's possible instead of all the things that are impossible, which is infinite, and all the things you do not have. So if you say, oh, but yeah, it's just me and my kids. So here you have children, you have a family, but you choose to focus on the one member of the family that appears to be missing for you. Well, I got in a fight with my sibling or my dad or my mom, and now this holiday is we're going to be apart this holiday. Yeah, so you don't, that's okay. So there's something you don't have. You are peering into the infinite void of what you do not have. What sense does that make? There's nothing wrong with saying, I would like to improve upon things that I can control. So there's nothing wrong with saying I would like more friends, but don't escalate that into, and since I don't have friends, I cannot be happy. Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that. Please don't tell your subconscious that story because your subconscious is always listening. It's always awake 24 hours a day. It's just ready to give you the chemicals that you need for whatever situation. Watch what you say. Watch what you think. If you say this to your subconscious, you say, I don't have any friends. It's just me. Then your subconscious is going to go, oh no, we're in a dire life or death situation. Pour in the adrenaline, the cortisol. We're going to make this hurt. don't do that to yourself. Don't punish your mind and your body and your heart with all of these negative chemicals. Tell your subconscious very positive, very accurate things. I would like to get more friends. Tell it that. Ask it propitious questions. Why am I going to be surrounded by all of the friends that I want to have? That's a propitious question. Why do I deserve the family that I choose instead of the family I was born with? That's a propitious question. Give your subconscious something like that to work on, and your subconscious will produce answers for you. It will start working on finding the solutions. It will see the opportunities. It will spot the confirmation of the bias. So write good programs for your subconscious with the use of propitious questions. And let's turn around our thinking, right? So instead of, well, I used to be married and now I'm not, and I'm divorced. Okay, look, I'm glad I'm not married to that abuser. That's how we need to think. I'm glad I'm not married to that abuser anymore. Now I can actually enjoy my holiday without any manipulation and lying and cheating and neglect and gaslighting. Instead of, well, I wanted a big family. No. I have my husband or I have my wife. What a blessing. Or if you got one child, I have a child. What a blessing. We can do this. We can go here. We can go go-karting, ice skating, sledding. I'm glad I don't have all the extra bills that would go along with having a big family. Or if you chose not to have kids, reassure yourself that was a good choice overall. I made a good decision for me. For me, this was a good choice. This kept things simple for us. I don't regret any of my decisions. Of course, there are downsides to every decision that we make. but there are so many benefits to my decision to not have children. Or if you wanted the kids, but you never had the kids, right? Focus on what you have. I have my health, or I have my spouse, or I have my career. I'm so happy that I have these things. And there are so many other people out there that now I'm in a position to help. So many other children out there who don't have their parents or something that they really need for their development. And I am here. I can actually fulfill needs of other people because of the fact that I didn't get exactly what I may have wanted at one time. I can make the choice now to want what is actually in reach so that I can fulfill my wants and my desires and attain to happiness, which is the choice to be content. You might have to say, in my marriage, both of us have had to compromise, right? Maybe you wanted to have kids, they didn't, or vice versa. In my marriage, both of us have had to compromise. Or if you have kids, I wouldn't want to live without them. Or if you just have your mate, I wouldn't want to have to live without him. We have each other. Or if you say, well, it's just me and my kids. No, I am surrounded by love, and they are too. And I want to make sure they feel that love and they don't feel any lack. So many would envy my situation. And if you're one of those people who's just like, I have no one. Well, I hope you're not Muslim or Jewish or Christian, because that's a contradiction of your faith. How do you think it would make your God feel to hear you say you have no one? That's not the right mentality, is it? Also, remind yourself that you have the ability to get people around you. There are many people who would be happy to have you in their presence, but you've chosen not to take their invitations. You've chosen not to be in their presence because that's not what's most healthy for you. So instead of saying I have no one and insulting yourself, say I have myself to take care of. What do I want to do? You are ignoring a person in the room when you say, well, I don't have anyone. I have no one. You're basically saying I am no one. So now you've insulted God and you've insulted yourself with this detrimental way of thinking. Don't ever say that. I have no one. I'm just totally don't say that. It's not good for your health. It's not true. And it's detrimental to look at things that way. So instead, switch your thinking. I'm so happy that I have the opportunity to care for me on this holiday, to do for myself what I would like to do. And I don't have to wait until a specific day and plan it out. I'm going to make myself my favorite meal. I'm going to put on my favorite movie. I'm going to watch something that's interesting to me. I'm going to cut out all distractions. I'm going to turn off my phone rather than be looking at my phone to see who's going to be calling me. I'm going to turn it off because it switches the mindset to I don't want to be bothered. I want to be alone. Yes, finally, I am by myself. This was the objective. And then the chemicals that you get are positive. I have the ability to connect with anyone if I want to. I can reach out and connect to people if I want to. I have that ability. And you get the chemicals of connection because you believe you have the ability to make the connection. You're not alone if you feel like you're going through loneliness when 50% of the population all feel like they're all going through loneliness. Loneliness is not a lonely experience. It's a group experience. And so many are going through it. It is an epidemic. But remember, when you get the sensation that you are in control of your feelings, because it is a perception and you control your perceptions. Remember that and ask yourself, meditate. Why am I viewing my situation as being unacceptable? Ask yourself that question. And you may find that it goes back to tradition, goes back to the things that you were brainwashed to believe by the media or by family or by culture. Meanwhile, you skip over a couple countries to the other side of the world, and this day means nothing to them. That means so much to you, it means nothing to the rest of the world population. There's billions of people who are living their life on that day, but they have other days that to them, they cry when they're not with other people on those days, because the day is not what's significant. You are following a tradition, and if you're not careful, you will be marching to the beat of a subconscious drum like you are a robot or a drone. So ask yourself why. Ask questions. And don't be gaslit into believing that it is not okay for you to be as you are, because it's more than okay. It is necessary. It is necessary for you to be who you are right now, even if that means being by yourself, especially if it means being by yourself, because you will heal faster. And when you're in your healed state, you have the ability to connect and get all of the good feelings, the serotonin and the oxytocin that you want. So bring yourself into a gratitude meditation and meditate on everything that you have. Just name 3 things that you are grateful for when you're feeling lonely. And then go into a vision of the future and watch yourself in the future achieving goals, obtaining things that were within reach. And I promise when you come out of it, you're going to feel a lot better.